living in a dream. One swimming up, one swimming downstream. The Pisces life, 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 the Pisces life.
We are recording Survivance with the Robinsons of Chicago. Story call out, life changes. Baby, married, divorced, separated, lost a loved one, drive-through celebrations, graduations, started, left college, etc. Welcome.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourselves.
I'm Jonna Robinson.
Marcus Robinson.
Very well. And how long have you all been married?
July 22nd will be 15 years.
15 years. Wow.
Man.
So we're going to start with your timeline that leads up to the pandemic that we experienced. So take us through the holidays of December 2019. We've come through Christmas. We come to January 1st. It's a new year. It's 2020. We ring in the new year. What were you guys doing?
We were just doing what we do. I had started the very tail end of a master's program that I had started some years ago. So that was, a really good thing. Mark was working part-time. I'm working full-time. And I was getting ready to start a new job, which I did. Like I said, the holidays and everything were really good. 2019, we got a chance to do our annual thing with the grandkids and stuff. And then fast forward to, you started hearing the buzzings about the pandemic and that kind of thing. And then like mid to late February, early March, it started sounding like, oh, wow, this is a thing. This is something that's happening. But we were still kind of just going about our daily routine.
The biggest thing about from 2019 until this past weekend is we hadn't saw the grandkids. I hadn't seen them over a year. Johnny would have been 2 years in November.
Mm-hmm.
But, by us both being vaccinated, having, both shots and going through that extended period, this past weekend, even though it was a somber occasion, we were able to see them.
So your family consists of children together, grandchildren. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, we have a blended family. So we don't use the word step, and my new word is bonus. So I have 3 bonus children and I have 1 biological child. So we have 4 children altogether and 2 grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
Daughter was making periodic trips up here. My husband suffers from some arthritis and he likes to garden. So my daughter likes to build. She's she can put stuff together. So she came and she built him 2 great big planters in the backyard so he wouldn't have to be on his knees and all of that kind of stuff so that he could garden. That was like mid-May, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
Yeah, graduation for me was virtual,
Like I said, we were in Michigan for a somber occasion. My daughter-in-law, her mother passed.
Mm-hmm.
And no sooner than we get back, my other daughter, her dad passed.
Mm.
During this whole pandemic, we've had some challenges. They've mostly been personal challenges, but as far as sickness and whatnot, well, we've had those also. Him too, and his whole family, they all had corona last year.
Mm.
The oldest son, Michael, he was hospitalized a little over a month ago. They all got over it and are doing fine, but it's about staying safe and using common sense. And unfortunately, some of us don't, including the ones that we raise. They don't always do.
Well, tell the truth.
So sometimes we're kind of like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Let me just, okay, all right.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely that space there of trying to figure out how to manage your family members when there are some who are being compliant and some that are not being compliant. And then at this point, because we're so far into the pandemic, there's been several, cases of people who've had it and gotten over it. There's people who were like not going outside at all. You got your elders that you're trying to keep safe. But you also have like family events, whether they're sad ones like a memorial service or funeral, but also happy ones that are happening, births of babies and people getting married and things. It's like, how do you maneuver through all of that when we have, these restrictions and just everything just still feels so heavy,
It does. It does. My family, we usually gather, and we have for the last 40, almost 50 years, Memorial Day centered around my grandmother's birthday. And it's been a thing, right, since forever. And so in 2020, that wasn't happening. We couldn't do that. We probably won't this year. And I lost my last aunt, my mother's sister, at 93. She made her transition. Her homegoing was the 22nd. So I want to say she made her transition on the 16th of March, somewhere around there. So for us, it's just really, like Mark said, like the personal things. We're pretty much homebodies. We kind of staycation anyway. We got a nice backyard, and we like to have things and host things in the backyard. But obviously, we weren't able to do that. Like Marcus spoke to earlier, not being able to see the grandkids, wasn't able to spend the time with our relatives, near and far, really, right? So I think for both of us, that's been one of the most challenging pieces. We've tried to make sure we follow the rules. I've been ordering masks from Amazon since forever. I got all kind of colors because I'm like, okay, so this is a thing. This is a fashion statement. So, might as well get with the program, If we do go somewhere, we got a bag full of Lysol, bleach, alcohol, those kinds of things. But it's, it makes you weary.
It does make you weary. Let me ask you this. You are both baby boomers. So this is one of those moments where our generation could be witnessing our own baby boom thanks to the pandemic. And we were talking about how the population is getting ready to have a seismic type of shift. And we're all in the pandemic experiencing this. What are your thoughts about that, having grown up during that era when another instance at that time it was the end of the war and everybody was back home and having babies and having babies. But this is something where we're trapped in the house due to the virus and people are having babies and having babies. Right. So having been from a generation of a population explosion, are there some nuances that you could share or think about in this space?
I think for me, being baby boomers are traditionally rule followers. And so I just kind of worry about, and I'm in social services myself, so I'm dealing with people all the time. I just kind of worry about what kind of values and messages that they're sending to their children and instilling in their children during this time. The unborn, because we know unborn children can hear, and the born, right? Like, what are we teaching them? Because we seem to have gotten so far away from the days when Mark and I came up, being baby boomers. So I just kind of lament for the generation that's coming up now.
And we've talked about this too, the pandemic within the pandemic. We had the killing of George Floyd. We had the killing of Breonna Taylor. We've had, since at the time of this recording, there have been 7 shootings.
This pandemic of killing Black people, us, this has been a 400 or 500 year pandemic. This foolishness has not just started, but you have so many things that are incorporated into that. So many excuses that are incorporated into why what's done to us is different than what's done to them. One of my favorite sayings is this: ignorance can be cured with education. There is no cure for stupidity. And when you don't tell the real, teach the real, all you're left is with ignorance. And unfortunately, that's what's going on in this country right now.
I agree with you. I live in the Chicagoland area as well. And so we have in the city of Chicago specifically, a mayor that is under a lot of scrutiny, her public health department that's equally under a lot of scrutiny because of the availability of resources and testing sites and how the vaccination distribution has been going. You mentioned early on that you were fully vaccinated. How did you go about getting your vaccinations, and how was that process for you?
The United Center, they opened up. I tried a couple of times because we were in the 1B or 1C group with, pre-existing conditions. We tried to take reasonably good care of ourselves, minus a couple, 2, 3 things. But anyway, I digress. So I tried calling, I tried getting on the website. And then, as you know, Kai, a couple of days after it got up and running, they shut it down because there were so many people from outside of Chicago getting appointments. So they had to revamp, retool. In the meantime, we have a relatively active community. We live in Rosemore. So one of my neighbors sent me a text with a flyer that our alderman was hosting a vaccination site.
That's nice.
Okay, yeah. So I tell Mark, I said, get on your phone, respond to this particular email with your name, birth date, and address. And this was on a Sunday. And so say we did that somewhere around the 11 o'clock hour, somewhere 11 in the morning. Mm-hmm. By about 2 or 3, we had a response email with, this is your vaccination date and time. It happened to have been, I want to say it was March 13th, somewhere in there.
But it was a relatively short period of time.
Real quick.
Time we submitted
the
application, or they notified us, well, you can come in on such and such a date and get your first shot. Mm-hmm. They sent the necessary, we did this necessary paperwork.
Yeah, the consent form.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we went in one day, the 6th, 4th,
something like that,
of March,
mm-hmm.
and got them. And then we went back 3 weeks later and got the second shot. And
it was pretty seamless for us. Thank God we didn't have any, it was crowded, but they managed the crowd really well. And I want to say we got in line with the 15-minute wait after you get your jab. Maybe we were in there 45 minutes total with that. And then the second time, because we were together the first time because we were down in one car at the time. Mm-hmm. So the second time, same place, around the same time, it was April 6th. So I get there first, and I'm like, oh, wow, they're letting people in. So I jump on, and we live like less than a quarter mile from where the site is. Mm-hmm. So that's another plus. So I got on the phone, I called Mark. I said, Mark, they're letting people in. You should come on up and get your shot. He was like, well, I'm dressed. I was just waiting on the time. I'm on my way. So as I was ending my 15 minutes in my chair, here he come walking through. He had just got his jab, getting ready to sit for his 15 minutes. So thank God we didn't, I thought it was going to be a struggle. And then the other thing was this was open to anybody. I think he kind of not jumped the gun, but he started the everybody 16 to 64, whether you have pre-existing conditions or not. Mm-hmm. So that was a good thing. And it was a really good amount of people there.
Now, I wanted to ask you too, Marcus, did you retire during the pandemic or before the pandemic? Okay, so during the pandemic. What was that like? And was the pandemic and civil unrest one or the other or both the reason that motivated you to retire?
What motivated me to retire was basically the pandemic and the way the company that I was working for was dealing with the pandemic. Because they weren't supplying the necessary tools that we needed to keep ourselves healthy. When I retired, what I was doing, I was transporting railroad workers from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. And I might have to make a 400-mile round trip within a day. And, you get guys in the van, didn't want to wear a mask. And then the hotels that we were picking them up from, there were some big bed bug issues.
Oh, no.
And, I just finally said, I'm done with this here. I'm down to 63 years old. I don't really have to do this anymore. So adios. You all have
Good call. Good call. And meanwhile,
Yes.
Jana, you were going to school as you started off, I imagine, in a physical space and place, earning your master's, and then you ended up graduating virtually. Is that what happened?
That's what happened. So winter quarter started in January 2020. It was going to be in person, in class. And we got an email shortly thereafter that everything was going to be online.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
I felt some kind of way because I'm a classroom person. I've gotten used to the digital platform and, I can pretty much work the technology, but I'm a classroom person. I'm, like you said, I'm a baby boomer. I'm old school. So they've announced that they're going to go back to in person. Now I don't know how I feel about that, right? Like in the fall, well, I probably don't want to do that now because I don't know, because I go to, it's downtown, in the Loop, Chicago. It's just too much. Everybody doesn't have the same value or rationale around the being vaccinated or even being safe and healthy, following CDC guidelines. So I just, we've been safe and healthy thus far. I took a couple of COVID tests prophylactically just to be sure, right? Once we did have an exposure at my job, went and took it, everything was fine. And then the second time I wanted to go visit my 93-year-old aunt. So I'm like, well, I'm going to take a test before I go. And that turned out fine as well. The other thing during the pandemic is my husband had full hip replacement surgery on his left hip.
Yes.
Right hip.
Nothing got to do
He's waiting for the other one.
Now, what was you doing? Was you dancing a jig in the backyard, entertaining? Is that how that hip went out?
You really want me to tell you? Really want me to tell you? Dancing had nothing to do with it. Placing that right hip in certain places, and we'll leave it at that. No,
well, ladies and gentlemen.
We did a lot of things as kids coming up. We played football on the sandlot fields, and we didn't have equipment. We did a whole lot. I jumped out of second-story windows into wagons. And then I worked 15 years in the prison system where I just pounded pavement, for 15 years. And it took its toll.
What was the procedure like for you having surgery during the pandemic? Was it out of this world crazy in terms of, did you feel any safer as a patient?
Actually, it was pretty normal. I had to go through the COVID-19 protocol, getting tested and all of that, but nothing abnormal. It's at certain time, well, this day we need you to come take this COVID test to make sure you're cleared before we have the surgery. Okay, we do that, cool. I went in, it was a drive-through process. Drove through, let the window down, they stuck the swab up my nose. And before 11 o'clock that night, I had the results. And, a week later, I had the surgery.
How are you doing? Have you recovered pretty well? And is there like the physical therapy? How is that happening? Or
he was in it, if you don't mind me jumping in, but he did stop because he didn't feel like they were being safe enough at the facility.
I went to therapy a couple of times, and there were some people that wasn't taking the necessary precautions, and I had to let the therapist know. And then when I came home from the last therapy session that I had, I called them and told them I wouldn't. They had given me enough exercises that I could do at home, continue my therapy. And basically, the hip is fine,
I wanted to ask another question too. Being a student who has graduated during the pandemic, how has this affected the future work that you want to do? And please share with us, what do you want to do or are doing?
I got accepted into public health MPH program at DePaul, which I am currently in the spring quarter. Because I'm doing it just for me. I mean, there's not a rush. I'm 60 years old. I'm doing it because I like school. But getting into it, and public health is just largely driven by data, right? Data. Again, I'm a baby boomer. I came up in the era where it wasn't quite fashionable for girls to understand or know math very well. And that is my own fear and weakness. So I was like, okay, how can I still, make an impact in doing it? And I feel like at some level you're practicing public health anyway in a social service arena, because you're dealing with people, you're trying to best practices, you're trying to help people understand protocols and different things that are, maternal health and homelessness, and all of those are public health issues. So at some level, I'm a public health practitioner, if you will, but it won't be by training. So I made the decision to switch programs. And so I switched to Master's in Nonprofit Management, which I'll be starting in the fall at the Paul School for Public Service. And that's what I've been in public service nonprofit my whole professional life. And so that's still a fit. That still feels a professional and a career goal for me. And so it wasn't really a hard decision, because I was like, oh, all this SPSS and all this data, and I don't really want to think that hard.
Right. Right. I understand.
Other stuff I kind of know, the nuances and the theory and that kind of thing. But I kind of romanticized public health, even, especially with the pandemic. And I was like, oh, I think I want to get an MPH. No, you don't. That's not what you want to do. So.
She said, not today.
No.
Yeah.
Not tomorrow either.
No. No.
I understand that. So we've been, it seems like, inside forever, being kind of in a slowed environment. You learn some new things about yourself. And you guys have been married for as long as you've been married. What have you learned new about each other in this pandemic space?
We are basically homebodies anyway. There were times that, like she said, we have a nice backyard. There were times we ballyhooed back there and had people over and whatnot. But the last 5-6 years, we had curtailed that anyway. Most of our time was spent with us. So when this came about, as far as separating ourselves from others, we had already done that. The only people we hadn't done that with was our children.
Mm-hmm.
So that for me anyway, that really wasn't a challenge. Separating, not being around people. The only thing I miss is certain restaurants we used to like to go. Leticia, you know which one I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. And listen, Kai knows too. As soon as I mentioned it, oh, girl, I know that's my place. I said, oh, my Lord.
Yes, you
that
said.
That place does it.
You said chant. I said, what you talking about chant? What? What? Yes.
I said, yeah, that food is so good. Oh, my gosh.
It is. And the other piece, another piece to that question would be another answer or response. Marcus and I have known each other since I was 11 and he was 14. We knew each other as kids in Albion. When I came to Albion, he would be my boyfriend or whatnot, what have you. We grew up. I would come to some of his dances, whatnot. So we grew up, we went off, we got married, we had children, and we reconnected into 99, early 2000, or into 98, early 1999.
Yeah. I was going to say, because I was done with school by then, the first time. Yeah, when you guys had met.
Yep. So.
Well, reconnected, I should say.
Reconnected, right. So, and we come from similar backgrounds. We're both only children. I don't want to say like we know everything about each other and just the alpha and the beta and everything, but like I said, we have similar upbringings and values, which has really helped.
Yeah, you were telling me a week or so ago, you had spoke with someone and you were telling them that we were only children. And, their question was, only children like their space, you know. And we're blessed enough and understand one another enough that we give each other space, you know, and you know, we're not all on top of each other all the time, you know.
We'll send a text to each other in the same house. Now, ain't that trifling?
It works though,
It
and
works.
understand. Yep, I understand.
That's how I gotta be sometimes.
That is, I totally get it.
Yeah, I got an only child over here too. He gonna be not only the only child no more if he don't get his life together. That's why I had to come to the garage because his daddy was dealing with his only childness. It was starting to rise up today. So
and it will. It will. Yep.
Sure.
My goodness.
We understand one another too.
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. One of the things that I've discovered, not necessarily about myself, but certainly it reaffirms things about myself, is how much I love ice cream. Because
no, you didn't.
because apparently in the pandemic, you're just supposed to eat ice cream every day. You know, every day.
Just wild abandon. Just.
So
my husband cut me off of ice cream and put me on Jell-O.
Oh, not Jell-O.
That's Jell-O, yeah. Because girl, I go have him. Can you bring me some butter pecan ice cream?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So says the woman that had ice cream both Friday and Saturday.
Yes.
I had to have some Frosty Days, Letitia.
Oh my goodness. Frosty Day. Oh my Lord.
We picked up the kids Friday. M3 wanted a shake. Wanted a shake.
Of course. The thicker the better.
Table when we leave Albion Saturday. Well, I got to go to Frosty Days.
Gotta go.
Now, we're not going to get into the other part what ice cream causes. Well,
right.
Yeah.
Black people, that, you know, there's something to it genetically, the way ours is set up. That dairy, it takes a little more to process.
We don't have the enzyme that it takes to break the lactose down.
Yes.
That's what that is.
It is. And
from a genetic standpoint, we lack that enzyme. And so that's why so many of us are lactose intolerant because of that deficiency. And it's not necessarily a deficiency. I don't want to digress, but like in maternal health and that, you know, you learn that humans are the only species that feed their babies another animal's milk. No other mammal does that, but human beings. Cows feed their baby calves their own milk, giraffes, whales, whatever. Humans are the only species that feed their babies another animal's milk.
That's interesting. And also explains so much.
Yeah. The cow milk, certainly, you know, it increases allergies, it increases mucus. It's just so many kind of health things that cow milk does to the body. Come on, Auntie Public Health. I see you out here.
I know it, right?
Getting the people together.
We always like to share information with you. We told you we know good company. We know good company.
Yes, we do.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other things that you have thought about how life changes? Because there's this group of folks that think we're going to go back to normal, back to normal, back to normal. And then there are others who are just like, yeah, it's going to be whatever the new normal is. Where are you all with that adjusting to that? Are you in the new normal camp or in the wait till we get back to normal?
I don't know about Mark, but I sort of vacillate because I'm a big daydreamer, right? I'm a Pisces. I'm an only child. So
yes.
Oh, I know what we could do. I could have an old coworker party. And then as I started counting old coworkers, I was like, no, I can't do that. Because that was like, you know, the closest people, how you build relationships at work. I was like, that was turning out to be 30 people. No, that's not going to happen. So I'm going to be embracing whatever this new normal is because it's going to be.
My thing is I'm going to continue to take precautions. And if we do happen to have a gathering, here, somewhat like we used to do. It'll be smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people that we invite would have to follow our protocol. And if we require you to wear a mask when you come here, when we do what we do in the backyard, then that's what you're going to have to do. And if you're not willing to do it, then please.
Adios, was it earlier? Adios.
Adios.
You know, I'm not saying that I want socialize with people, but the socialization won't be like it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to get back to that period anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How are you managing your daily tasks like grocery shopping? Are you okay with getting online and having people deliver, or you still want to go to the grocery store? Oh, frowned up right there. Okay.
You can't pick my meat and my vegetables for me.
Matter of fact, there are only about 4 places we go: grocery store, gas station, cigar shop, and a liquor store.
Well, the essentials are covered.
I said, sound like a complete trip to me. I like it.
Every now and then we'll order out from Chi Town, go pick it up and bring it back home. But I'll make a weekly trip, top off my gas. Aldi is my favorite grocery store. I'll do a Walmart run, and then it's back home. I'm back home on a Saturday by noon or so.
Essentially, that's what we've been doing for years anyway.
Already, I hear you.
We're rule followers. Oh, you say we got to do this?
Yeah, well, okay. I'm saying we were at this point before the rest of the country got to this point. We were already there.
Yeah, that does make a difference too. It does.
You know, because, and I hate to say it, you know, it's just so much foolishness going on that, hey, you're kind of better off just to stay.
Keeping it close to the vest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
we just learned about a shooting that was on, and we live in a relatively quiet area.
Mm-hmm.
And this morning, I'm listening to the news, and there's a 30-year-old, because it did turn out to be a 30-year-old woman shot a block away on our street. Well, 103rd, we're on 101st. What block? 102nd.
But you got killed on 103rd. 102nd. 102nd. 103rd.
But it was right at the corner.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Well,
anyway, too close for comfort.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
The gist of it, I understand.
Yeah. So, you know, in terms of, you know, and this is from someone who used to love to run the streets.
And I'll be honest, you know, most of our time is spent in the backyard. And I'll be honest, we don't sit in the backyard and it's right here.
Understood. Understood.
Yeah.
Indeed. This has been so fun.
It is. Sis, you had another question to get into?
Yeah. My last question is for all of the other people who are going to be listening to this interview and hearing your words. What's your message to them in reference to life, because you've lived a long life so far, and y'all are being diligent to ensure that y'all can live on some more. So, and I think that you made a good point in that people are kind of being reckless out here, you know, thinking, you know, that they have so many more tomorrows in front of them. And so what would you share to the listeners around keeping themselves safe and helping to preserve their lives to be able to do whatever they're going to do next?
Mm-hmm.
As far as this pandemic goes, listen to the scientists, not the politicians. And then respect the fact that you don't have the right to make me sick. And if that requires you wearing a mask, then do that. I'm going to respect the fact that you don't want to get sick, whether you don't respect the fact that I don't want to get sick from you. It's about follow the science, not the politicians, and respect. Be respectful of one another. You don't have to like me to show me a monicum of respect.
Absolutely. And I mean, along with that, absolutely. Listen to the science and, you know, what's your priority and what's your reason for, oh, well, they're going to shoot that COVID-19 in me. No, doesn't have any COVID in the vaccine. If you don't have an answer for why you don't want to, then maybe you want to reconsider what your priorities are. If you got a grandma somewhere or another elderly relative, or grandchildren or somebody that's just compromised in their health that you love, well, how is it hurting you? Yeah, you can't rip and run and do all of that, but a lot of folks are doing it anyway. And look what keeps happening when they do that. Mm-hmm. So what does that tell you? What is that saying, Letitia? That's the mark of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Mm-hmm. So let's do something different.
It's all different. So my last question for you is on the other part of the pandemic that we've dealt with. Your generation we stand on your shoulders for dealing with civil unrest and looking to how can we get to this society that we're at least, I don't even know if integrated is the right word anymore, but where we're socially more complementary towards one another. I don't know what the words are anymore. I really don't, because it's not racial harmony for me. It ain't justice yet. It ain't equality yet. It ain't inclusion, because you really don't want us at the table. We just went through yet another round of the Oscars, and could any
about speaking truth to power and keep speaking truth to power, no matter how many people you upset by doing that. You speak truth to power. When you see something that's not right, you speak on it. And what amazes me is when Black people call out racism and racist behavior and racial injustices, we call it racist.
Well, we can't be racist.
But don't let that stop you from speaking truth to power. We know what time it is. We see it. It's been that way all along. Now it's being a little bit more, it's more, I can't say it's more widespread, but we see with video evidence, what we've been telling you people for hundreds of years.
This ain't nothing new.
This is nothing new. Now you see it. And what happened with George Floyd just so happened during the pandemic. And people were home and shut in, and they saw this. They weren't at work from 9 to 5 or 5 to 9 or whatever. They were at home watching what this guy did. Mm-hmm. So it's about, like I said, for me anyway, it's just about speaking truth to power and continue speaking truth to power.
China, what about you?
One of my mother's saying was she never thought integration was a good idea, because she always said as soon as we got integrated, if you will, we forgot our own businesses, because we have built up very vibrant communities. And as soon as we could go downtown, we forgot about going up on 103rd to the Monkey Ward's catalog order in place and, that kind of thing. But this, this is nothing new. And the buzzwords, the diversity, the equity, the inclusion, the cultural competence, which I don't think there's any such thing as cultural competence. I think that's a misnomer. It's just about consciousness and what Mark says, speaking truth to power. And, everybody has a different truth, but this is for real. This has been now, this is part of, like time capsule you guys are doing. This is part of something that happened. This is evidence. Mm-hmm. This is in history.
It's in history.
I'm going to drop this on you and then I'm gone.
Okay.
Any Black person that votes for a man or a party that is actively trying to suppress and take away their right to vote is SKOS, a special kind of stupid. Love you, baby.
I love you back. I love you back. Thank you.
You just got to walk off like that.
That was a drop the mic. Drop the mic. That was a drop the mic.
Boom. See, that's that only child.
Right, exactly. I'm done playing now.
I'm through now.
I'm out. Oh, I recognize it oh so well. I'm done now. Well, now that we have just us ladies here, there are a couple of things that we want to tap into right quick as women too.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say as a woman with more seasoning to women that are our generation in terms of loving our children and loving our men through some of the hardships that we are experiencing as Black people, the killings as well as the pandemic?
Number one, what comes to mind is if you don't love yourself, you don't have the capacity to love anybody else. You can't teach what you don't know. And for some of the generations coming up, like I said, my heart kind of aches because of what I see and probably, the field that I've been in. But just overall, the way I see women speaking to their children, sometimes they'll speak to their men or their partners or whatever more respectfully than they speak to their children. So just whatever that space is that you can start loving yourself. And again, you can't teach what you don't know. So it's like that circular logic, right? Like, and I'm not saying that everybody wants the best for themselves and their children, but it's how you get there and what you do to get there and what you prioritize for yourself as a Black woman. And like I said, you got to love yourself first, and you won't have anything to give anybody else. And that's so clearly evidenced in our community, today. There's just no self-love. So we got to get to a place where we love it on ourselves so that we have that to give out. Does that make sense?
It does, because love is going to be what rebuilds us. It's always been what has held our resilience together in our communities, in our households, collectively, and all of that. That's pretty powerful, though, love of self, so you have something to give.
Yeah, because otherwise you don't have anything, and you're going to get the paintbrush eyelashes and thinking that's, where you going? Boo-boo, did you run past a mirror today?
And nowadays, listen, you putting on eyelashes for whom?
For who? Where you going? You finna rehearse for RuPaul's Drag Race? Or what are we doing? Where you going with all of that? What kind of job interview are you getting ready to go on with that? He talking about some shenanigans in the background. See, I thought he was gone.
We truly gonna have to have y'all back on again. I already know it's gonna be a crowd favorite, right?
Yes. They're gonna be like, where Uncle Auntie at? We gotta talk to them again.
Well, we have truly enjoyed ourselves with you. This has been, I think for us, this is the first time that we have had seasoned adults on our show.
Wow. Well,
it really is.
Well, we certainly appreciate the opportunity. I know I do. And I know he does. He gonna talk crazy anyway, but
we appreciate the wisdom and
the wisdom.
And I think that you've shared a lot of things that I think people will agree with and certainly have some conversation about. So I appreciate the time.
One thing I always taught my children, especially my sons, don't think or believe that you're any better than anyone else. Just because you have on a better pair of pants or a better pair of shoes or better shirt or your haircut is a little bit more fly, you're no better than that motor scooter standing on the street jump corner asking for spare change, because you could be in the same spot he's in. So thank God for where you at and don't put yourself above them. That's one thing that I've taught them since they were
little kids.
No better than anyone else. And that comes into everything that we've been talking about as far as the mask wearing and everything else. You're no better than anyone else. Respect others. They may not be from the same ilk as you're from, but respect.
Such truth. Such truth. My father used to say all the time, I go to work, I'm rich. I don't know what you're doing. So I require you to have a seat is what I require you to do.
Okay, have several of them.
Have several of them. Yeah. There's definitely a reverence issue that I see with the younger generation, with just even their language. Like, there's just certain things that we just wouldn't do in front of our parents, in front of our aunties, in front of our grandparents. And now
shame yourself.
Where's the shame? We talk about it all the time.
No, there ain't no shame.
Ain't no shame.
I'm not a proponent of corporal punishment when it comes to our children. But when I was coming up, and I'm from a small town in Michigan. And when I was coming up, there were certain things that you weren't going to get away with. Because if Miss Donnie, Miss Rosemary, Miss Willa Mae, or whoever, they saw you doing that foolishness, they were going to get with you. And if they didn't dish out that corporal punishment, they were going to get on the phone. Yeah.
Y'all see an old phone, right? Yeah. Phone like this.
Yeah. This is what I saw Letitia doing. Hey, Eloise, this is what I saw Anthony doing. And you were going to have to justify whatever you were doing.
Got that right. You got that right.
I was in a store a few years ago, 3 years ago, right up the street. And it's two cute little boys. They could have been more than about 3. And the balloon displays, they not the floating balloons, but just the ones that were hard ones on the stick. They were pulling them out the display and stomping them.
Lord have mercy.
Mother was hollering and cussing. Get your so-and-so up here. And they come up for a second, and they go back and pull out some more and stomp on them. So after about the 3rd time, I hollered at them. I said, boy, didn't you hear what your mama told you to do? You know who she cussed out?
You? Oh, wow.
I already knew where this story was going at. Don't you be talking to my baby.
Yeah.
And we in a different space now. That I have a story. I was a senior in high school, and I had the car. The rare occasion that I had the car, and I only got the car because I was going to Bible study. So I had to go pick up all my friends.
Right.
Because we was going to Bible study. Yes. And I had a hatchback car, and I had kids hanging all out. We was driving. Before I got to the next corner, 3 cars. They was like, Mr. Johnson saw you driving down the street with these kids hanging out, had us all out in the car. I was like, how did they know? This is before cell phones, before pagers, all of that. But I was respectful. I was like, I'm so sorry, Miss Johnson. I know what that, the reverence, the respect, you know what I'm saying? Right. And then I already knew they had called my mama. So I knew once I got back home from Bible study. I was going to have to do some explaining.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Different times.
Yes.
Well, we're going to close on out, and we are so thankful that you have spent tonight with us. This has been a Survivance, a special episode of the Pisces Life. As you know, we have started our stories in Chicagoland, and this is one of those moments where we sit down and we can listen to wisdom. We can sit down and listen to the generation before us to give us a space and place to still yet connect. Yes. We thank you for sharing your stories tonight. This will bless somebody's heart. The laughs were good, as well as the life lessons. I've got a lot of stuff to think about, just in terms of what does this moving forward mean for me,
Yep, indeed.
Well, we certainly appreciate the opportunity. This was fun.
Thank you. So we'll see you again. I'm sure of it.
Okay.
Yes, most definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when I come to Chicago, we all gonna have to go to that little Chinese spot. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Chai Tung, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Pull it on up, pull it on up.
Yep.
Indeed. All right, we're going to go ahead and let you guys go. Thank you.
All right.
again.
Thank you
Love
so
to you
much.
guys. Love you so much.
Take
It's good
care.
seeing you.
Stay safe.
Love you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Two fish living in a dream. One swimming up, one swimming downstream. The Pisces life. 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 The Pisces life.